Welcome to Story Medicine. I am Joe Summerfield. For over 20 years, I've been working to better understand and support people in navigating this human experience. I've come to believe that stories are encoded with the collective wisdom of all who have come before us, that they bring us into connection with the collective unconscious and contain treasure waiting to be decoded. This podcast explores traditional tales through that lens. Each episode offers a story told in full, an exploration of the medicine it may carry, and questions to help you integrate that medicine. Today's story comes from the Haudenosaunee peoples, the Confederacy of 6 nations, the Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, Seneca, and Tuscarora, whose traditional territories span what we now call the northeastern United States and southeastern Canada. This is their creation story, still told and honoured today, so I approach it as an outsider with a deep respect for these living traditions. The story is known by various names across the nations, often calling the central figure Adjidjagaun, which means mature flower in Mohawk, or simply Sky Woman. Different nations tell slightly different versions, and what I am sharing today draws on the common threads while still honouring that this story belongs to the Haudenosaunee peoples. It carries profound medicine about trust, cooperation, and how life itself emerges not through individual heroism, but through community, through the willingness of many to offer what they can. Let's begin. Part 1. The story. Long, long ago, before there was any land, there was only water. Endless water stretching in all directions, deep and dark. The only beings in this world were the creatures of the water, beaver, muskrat, otter, loon, and the birds who flew above. But far above this water world there was another realm entirely, the sky world, Karonhiage. In the sky world lived beings who were like humans in some ways, but different in others. They had powers that ordinary people don't seem to possess. For example, they could bring things into being simply by thinking. And in the center of the sky world grew a great tree, the tree of life. Some say that it glowed with its own light, illuminating the entire realm. And on this tree grew every kind of fruit imaginable: apples, peaches, plums, cherries, pears. Everything that nourishes life grew upon that single tree. The sky people were told never to disturb the tree of life. It was sacred. It was the source of all of their light and sustenance. But one day, a woman who was expecting a baby began to crave something unusual. Her name was Adjidjagaun, mature flower, and she asked her husband for a drink of tea made of the roots of the tree of life itself. Now her husband knew that this was forbidden. He knew that they should not touch the tree, but his wife's craving was strong, and he loved her, so he went to the tree and began to dig near its base, trying to reach the roots. As he dug, something terrible happened. The ground around the tree gave way. Some say the tree itself toppled over, but a massive hole opened up in the floor of the sky world. When Mature Flower came to see what had happened, she peered down through that hole. Far, far below she could see water, endless water, reflecting what little light reached it from above. What happened next is told in different ways. Some say she lost her balance as she gazed and fell. Some say she had dreams that told her that she was meant to go through that opening, and so she jumped, and some say she was pushed. Whatever way it happened, Mature Flower fell. As she fell, she reached out, grasping desperately for something to hold on to. Her hands closed around whatever they could find, seeds and roots and soil from around the tree of life. But they did not stop her fall. And so she fell through the darkness, falling toward that distant water world below, clutching at these fragments of her home. Down in the water world, the birds noticed something strange. Looking up, they saw light. A figure falling from somewhere beyond their sky, glowing as it descended. The leader of the water birds, some say it was the chief of the geese, and others say the swans, called to the others. "Look, somebody's falling! We must help!" The birds flew upward in formation, and as Mature Flower fell, they caught her gently upon their backs, breaking her fall. They carried her, but they knew they couldn't hold her forever. She needed somewhere to land. She needed Earth. The water animals gathered in council. What could they do? There was no land anywhere, only water as far as anybody knew. Finally, the great turtle surfaced and spoke. "Place her upon my back," he said. "My shell is broad and strong. I can carry her." So the birds carefully lowered Sky Woman onto Turtle's back, and she rested there, grateful but uncertain. She was safe for now, but she needed more than this. She needed soil in which to plant the seeds that she still clutched in her hands. The beaver spoke up. "My grandfather once told me that somewhere, beneath all this water, there is earth, mud, soil. Perhaps we could bring it up." And so the animals began to dive. First the beaver dove down, 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 down into the darkness. But the water was so deep that he could not reach the bottom, and his body surfaced, lifeless, exhausted by the attempt. Then the loon tried, diving with all her strength, but she too could not reach the bottom and came back up with nothing. Otter dove next, pushing deeper than any had gone before, but even he returned without earth. And finally, the smallest of them spoke up. Little Muskrat said, "Let me try." The others looked at her with concern. If Beaver and Loon and Otter had failed, how could tiny Muskrat succeed? But she was determined. Down she dove, deeper and deeper and deeper into the cold darkness where no light penetrated. She was gone so long that the animals thought that they'd lost her. They began to mourn. Then, suddenly, Muskrat's tiny body floated to the surface. She was not breathing, but clutched in her little paw was a handful of mud. Sky Woman gently took the mud from Muskrat's paw and thanked her for her sacrifice. She placed the mud onto Turtle's back and began spreading it out. Then she opened her other hand, the seeds and roots and soil that she'd taken as she fell, and began to dance. She danced in gratitude. She danced for the birds who had caught her. She danced for Turtle who had held her. She danced for Muskrat who had given everything to bring earth. As she danced, the soil on Turtle's back began to spread and glow. It grew wider and wider, creating land. Enough land to support not just her, but all the life that would come. She planted the seeds that she'd brought from Skyworld. They took root in this new earth and began to grow. Corn and beans and squash, berries and medicines, all the plants that would nourish the people. This is how the earth was made. This is why some people call this Turtle Island. Not through one being's power, but through many. Through the courage of the birds who caught the falling stranger. Through the generosity of Turtle who offered his back. Through the sacrifice of Muskrat who dove beyond her limits. Through the gratitude of Sky Woman who honoured each gift by creating more life. The story continues from here. Sky Woman eventually had a daughter, and her daughter had twin sons who would shape the world further, bringing both light and darkness, both creation and challenge into being. But the beginning, the foundation of everything, was this: that life emerged through cooperation, through trust, through the willingness of many beings to help one another, even when they didn't fully understand what was needed or why. Part 2. The medicine. Let's explore the medicine that this story offers. This is a creation story, an explanation of how the earth came to be, and it's unlike most creation stories that we know in Western traditions. Before we explore deeper, if you know someone who might appreciate this story's medicine right now, please share this episode with them. And if you're enjoying the podcast and would like to help others find it too, then please consider subscribing and leaving a review. Thank you. So in this story, there is no single all-powerful creator who speaks the world into being. There is no deity who shapes Earth from nothing through will alone. Here we have something very different. Creation through community, through collaboration, through many different beings, each offering what only they can give. Let's look at what unfolds here. Sky Woman's fall from Skyworld represents something that we all eventually experience. the loss of a perfect or protected state. Like the Garden of Eden story, this tells us that possibility exists outside of perfect order. To grow, to become whole, we must be willing to step from order into chaos, into possibility. She leaves a realm of light, abundance, and ease. Whether she fell accidentally, or jumped intentionally, or was pushed, the result is the same. She can never return to what was. But notice, she never looked back. She didn't lament the fall or what she had lost. She immediately took to her new task. Even in the moment of falling, she took with her what might be useful in the new world. Jung might recognize this as the necessary fall from the original unconscious wholeness. We cannot remain in the garden forever. Growth requires leaving what was safe and certain. A hero's journey always begins with being thrust or choosing to step into the unknown. How many of us, when we are called to move on to what's next, to leave behind the safety of known order into possibility, take that opportunity wholeheartedly? How many of us remember to take something with us? When we must lose some aspect of the life that we knew in order to grow, in order to evolve, do we think about which seeds to take with us to enrich what's next? Beyond taking those seeds, Sky Woman cannot save herself. She is surrendered to falling into the unknown, powerless, dependent. And what happens? The birds see her and fly up to catch her. They don't debate whether she deserves help. They don't ask what she may be able to offer in return. They simply see somebody falling and respond. This is a teaching about the fundamental nature of the world that the Haudenosaunee understand themselves to inhabit. We are all interconnected. The natural response to someone or something in need is to help if you can. The birds could catch her, so they did. But they couldn't hold her forever, so Turtle offers his back. Turtle didn't create land, he simply offered what he had, a stable foundation. Sometimes the medicine that we offer doesn't solve the whole problem, it just provides the platform upon which solutions can be built. Then comes the diving for Earth. Beaver tries and fails, loon tries and fails, otter tries and fails. Each of these strong, capable animals gives their all, but are unsuccessful. Finally, Muskrat, the smallest, the least likely to succeed, manages to reach the bottom, but it costs her everything. She brings up a handful of mud and dies in the attempt. Muskrat's sacrifice deserves our attention. She succeeds not despite being small, but perhaps because of it. Sometimes our apparent limitations are our gifts. She could dive in ways that the larger animals perhaps could not. Her smallness allowed a different kind of courage. This is another example of the interconnectedness of all things. Muskrat wasn't acting for competition or for glory. She did what needed to be done because she was able to, even though she knew it would most likely cost her life. And notice what Sky Woman does with the mud. She doesn't drop it onto Turtle or sit with relief. She dances. She dances in gratitude, in honor, and in celebration for every being who helped her, for the birds, for the turtle, for the beaver, for the loon and otter, and for Muskrat. Perhaps she dances for the sun. Perhaps she dances the blessings of Skyworld. Her gratitude is not passive thankfulness or words. It is active, embodied, creative. It is energetic. Her dancing spreads the earth. And in the process of this embodied, energetic expression of gratitude and honor, her dancing spreads the earth. Her honoring of the gifts she received multiplies them. This is a teaching about reciprocity. When we receive help, when we are held in our falling, when we are given a platform to stand on, when somebody makes a sacrifice for us, how do we respond? Do we simply consume what we're given? Or do we, like Sky Woman, dance our gratitude in ways that create more life, more possibility for others? Do we take seriously our contribution or our sacrifice in the great tapestry of things? She plants the seeds that she brought from Skyworld, and the two worlds come together. The medicine from what was nourishes what will be. Notice something else here. Sky Woman is pregnant when this begins. That is how this all started. She's carrying new life, and her craving for the tree's roots is what sets everything in motion. Perhaps this isn't simply a pregnancy craving. Perhaps her body, her feminine wisdom, knows something. The existing order in Skyworld, the perfect arrangement, the sacred tree that must not be disturbed. Perhaps all of this is not appropriate for what must come to be. Creation requires chaos. New life requires leaving perfect order behind. Her husband loves her and tries to provide what she craves, but his action ruptures the sacred tree and sends her falling. He enables the rupture she needed without understanding its necessity. Not through malice, just through acting in service of what she, with the feminine principle, had known would have to happen. And notice how Sky Woman creates once she falls. She doesn't conquer or force or dominate. She receives the catch from the birds, the platform from the turtle, the earth from Muskrat. Then she dances. She multiplies what she's been given. This is a different principle of creation. Not masculine, not force that imposes will onto chaos, but feminine wisdom that works with chaos, that receives and cooperates and generates. The new world emerges not through ordering chaos into submission, but through dancing with it. She is pregnant with possibility, and she births a new world not by controlling it into being, but by trusting the fall and dancing with what meets her there. Perhaps the deepest teaching here is about the nature of creation itself. The earth, Turtle Island, is not made by one being, it's made by many. Sky Woman provides the seeds and the vision and the dancing. Muskrat provides the earth at great cost. Turtle provides the foundation. The birds provide the rescue. Each contributes what only they can give. This is so different from the individualistic hero myths. In many ways, we are taught to be self-sufficient, to solve our own problems, to achieve through our own efforts, to celebrate our achievements. In many ways, we are taught that asking for help is weakness, that depending on others is failure, and that receiving from others should be a part of some transactional arrangement. But this story teaches the opposite. It teaches that the most profound creation happens through collaboration. That receiving help is not shameful, it is part of a collaborative exchange that creates life. That our individual limitations are not problems to overcome, but invitations for others' gifts to shine. Think about your own life. When have you been Sky Woman, falling and needing to be caught? Did you allow yourself to be caught? Did you honor those who helped you? Or did you minimize your need out of shame? When have you been the birds, seeing someone falling and flying up to help? When have you been Turtle, offering your back as a platform? And when have you been Muskrat, giving beyond what seemed possible because it was simply what was needed? And here's perhaps the most challenging question. When have you refused to be any of these? When have you looked away from someone falling, thinking it wasn't your responsibility? When have you refused to offer what you had, afraid it wouldn't be enough? And when have you held back your gifts because you thought somebody stronger or more capable should step forward instead? We live in a culture that often tells us that we should be able to do it alone. Self-made success, individual achievement, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. We are taught in our culture to prize independence, in some cases to feel threatened by interdependence. This creation story offers a very different wisdom. It says, you were never meant to do it alone. You were meant to catch and be caught, to offer your back and to rest on another's, to dive deep even when you're small, and to dance in gratitude that spreads the gifts that you've received from others. It says, the earth itself, and life itself emerged through many beings working together, each contributing what only they could give. This is not a flaw in the system. This is the system. Interdependence is not weakness. It is the very foundation of creation. The Haudenosaunee tell us that this story continues. Sky Woman's descendants, the twins who brought both light and shadow into the world, remind us that creation is ongoing, that life necessarily contains both constructive and destructive forces, that we are still shaping Turtle Island and still deciding what kind of world we want to create together. The question the story asks is, will we remember how this began? Will we remember that we're meant to help one another? That we're meant to offer what we can give, even when it seems small? That we are meant to receive what others are able to give? And that we're meant to dance our gratitude and honor in ways that multiply these gifts? The medicine here is about moving on from isolation to interconnection, from self-sufficiency to healthy interdependence, from shame about where we are or who we are or the help that we need to understanding that needing and offering help is how the world is made. Part 3. Integration Practices. The medicine doesn't come from understanding these patterns intellectually. It comes from practices, from allowing this wisdom to shape who we are every day. Here are 3 practices to help you integrate some of the medicine from this story. First practice, mapping your current community of support. This week, take 15 minutes with your journal and draw a simple map. Put yourself in the center, and then add everyone and everything that currently helps hold you, that offers some form of support, catching, or foundation in your life. Include obvious helpers, friends, family, therapists, mentors, but also include the less obvious, the colleague who always responds to your questions, the neighbor who waves each morning, the weekly yoga class that grounds you, the podcast that helps you think, the tree that you sit under, the morning ritual that centers you. Don't evaluate whether the support is big or small, just notice it. You're creating a truthful picture of your actual community of helpers. Then notice, which of these supports do you tend to minimize or take for granted? Which ones have you never actually directly acknowledged? Choose one this week and offer genuine thanks. A note, a conversation, a gesture that says, I see how you help hold me. This practice helps us shift from the illusion of self-sufficiency to the truth of interdependence. Second practice, offering what you have, not what you think you should have. Turtle did not create land, he offered his back. Muskrat wasn't the strongest diver, she simply went as deep as she could. The medicine is in offering what you actually have, not waiting until you have more. This week, notice where you hold back because you think that what you can offer isn't enough. Notice when you think, somebody else could do this better, or my contribution is too small to matter, or I'm not doing this well enough. When you catch yourself in this pattern, ask, what if what I have is exactly what's needed right now? And then offer it. Just offer what you have. Notice what happens when you stop waiting to be more capable and simply offer what you are right now. Third practice, practicing gratitude as a generative action. Sky Woman didn't just say thank you, she danced, she created. Her gratitude became generative. It multiplied the gifts that she'd received. For the next week, choose one significant help that you've received, recently or in the past. And instead of just feeling grateful, let your gratitude become action. Ask yourself, how can I honor this gift by creating more life, more possibility? Maybe you pass forward similar help to someone else. Maybe you create something that wouldn't exist without what you were given. Maybe you teach what you learned to others. Maybe you simply tell the story of how you were helped, modeling for others, or perhaps for yourself, that receiving help is not shameful. Let your gratitude dance, and then spread it like earth on Turtle's back. These ideas of practices help us embody the medicine of this story, moving from isolation to interconnection, from self-sufficiency to healthy community, from shame about needing help to understanding that we are always meant to catch and be caught, to offer and to receive, to co-create this world together. The wisdom in these old stories doesn't force itself upon us. It waits, like a friend, for us to be ready to receive it. I hope that this story's medicine found you where you need it. If this episode resonated with you, please consider subscribing to Story Medicine, leaving a review, and sharing it with friends who might appreciate these teachings. Your support helps the medicine of these stories to find people who may gain from it. Thank you for listening to Story Medicine. I am Joe Summerfield. Until next time.